Hey, it's Robert Beard, the host of the Commercial Landscaper podcast. These podcasts challenge you to grow as a leader, to stretch yourself beyond your comfort zone, and to 10x your company. I really encourage you to enjoy the show, share it with teammates, fellow business owners, and subscribe. That helps us grow our community. This podcast is sponsored by Bum Data, helping commercial landscapers turn labor data into smarter decisions with intuitive, actionable analytics. Check them out if you're ready to control your labor costs and boost your margins. When you mention Wilson T60, you'll get 1 month free subscription to check out this amazing software. Hi, this is Robert Beard with the Commercial Landscaper podcast. Really excited today to be joined by Marcus Hemington. Marcus, welcome to the show.
Hey, Robert. How you doing?
Just so our audience knows who you are, can you maybe just give us a little bit about background about you and your business?
Name's Marcus Hemington, CEO of Hemington Landscape Services. Started with the company in about 2010. Family company founded by Mark and Jill Hemington in 1983. Second generation company. I had been around the company pretty much my whole life and had really seen that founder's lifestyle. It's really a lifestyle, right? When you found a company, being in that family and seeing that all the sacrifice and what comes with that lifestyle, the good and the bad, and really had decided to join the company and see if it's something I wanted to do. But just pretty difficult time in 2010, kind of right in the middle,
Yes.
Really bad recession.
Absolutely.
What's amazing though is being a part of a second generation company. You come into a company there's already great people there,
Right?
So it makes it a lot easier, right? Than
For sure.
Starting a company from scratch. And I'm really thankful for that. All the credit for our success goes to Mark and Jill, the founders who set that foundation, and our floor got to be their ceiling. And I think that's the beautiful thing about legacy and family companies is you get to carry on that torch and add value to the company with your own personality, your own vision, but also you're not starting it from scratch. And I think there's a lot of value there.
Did you feel any pressure at the time? Because there probably was a phased approach where you start to take over more and more of the business, but you're probably thinking, how do I not F this up? Your parents have, built this great company and you're coming in and you're trying to just do the right thing and not make any mistakes.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I felt pressure. Maybe it's quite actually the opposite. I think they're thinking, "Are you sure you want to do this?" This being kind of in a real low point at that time. So I didn't feel any pressure, but I did always have a real passion to try and run a business and be a part of a business in some type of leadership capacity. And it was a great opportunity, especially being a younger person, in my 20s at the time. Nobody's going to give you that opportunity, right?
Right.
You have some type of real gift or talent or connection. And so I thought, man, this is a great opportunity to try something and do it with people that I really trust, my family members. And just kind of started from there, learned a lot of really difficult lessons quickly and learned what not to do. And you just kept staying at it, showing up and trying to get better every week. That's really all it takes, just keep trying and don't quit. And eventually you'll find some wins in there, hopefully.
Yeah, you've always got to look for the wins, even though you're a business in general, there's a lot of negativity. And your company's mainly in the landscape construction space, correct?
Right.
You want to just go into that a little bit more?
Yeah. So our primary focus is commercial landscape construction, business to business type contracting, new home builders, land developers, general contractors, municipalities. We do commercial landscaping, and then we also do concrete construction, commercial concrete construction that really complements our landscape. So that, there's a lot of upside to that, right? When building activity is good, and then when it's not so great, it can be a challenge like it was when I first started my career at Hemington. But yeah, that is our primary focus and has been since really the founding of the company with Mark. He had a very specific vision for that from early on, which I think is pretty unique, that's where he wanted to go into the commercial space and really focus on that and try to do that really well by serving our customers really well and doing good quality and building their trust and getting them to hire us again. And that's really where our core values of service, quality, and character come in, SQC, as we say in the business.
I mean, obviously, you took some time to learn the business and start to feel confident in your role. At what point did you then start to think, hey, here's some new ideas. Maybe you're coming in with some
Yeah.
fresh ideas and trying to maybe build on what your parents had built?
Yeah, I think it was probably about 5 years before I felt like I had my hands around the business, which was a lot longer than I thought it was going to take. And then when I say that, it's even just understanding the ins and outs of it. I think a lot of people look at our industry, the landscape or construction business, and they think there's not a lot to it, but it really is a complicated and intricate business, and it does take a lot of skill and expertise to do it well. And so really a lot of that time I was just learning about the business and how it works and the different lingo and terminology and all those things that you need to know to even just have a confident conversation with somebody. And I think that was helpful because I was able to really learn the business in a low pressure environment and continue to be curious. And there wasn't really anybody kind of training me. It was just like, hey, if you want to know about that, just go look and do it
Right.
and
Yeah,
figure it
carry your
out.
own bag almost.
Yeah.
But what do you think's the toughest piece to learn or understand? Is it the contracts? Is it the actual work in the field, or is it the networking, the relationships that have been built over a number of years?
As far as what's the biggest challenge of taking that on from somebody else?
Yeah, what was the biggest thing just for you to either learn or understand the challenges or what those
Oh, sure.
relationships
Yeah.
meant? Yeah.
I think from my personal perspective, I think the biggest challenge is leading people and
Mm.
and being able to manage people well, where you feel like you're doing right by them and they feel taken care of, but you're also getting an effective result for the business. And I think
Right.
that's a real tightrope to walk because especially if you care about your people and you want to make sure that they're having a good experience and they're getting value out of working for you. You want them to feel like they're important and they are the most important thing of any landscape business is the people you have. But you also need to get a result that's positive for the business. So how do you balance that? And I think that's a real leadership skill that I was able to just start doing and continue to work on and improve, and still something I'm trying to get better at. But yeah, I would say that leadership piece is probably the biggest challenge, leading people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, for sure. And I'm sure there's some additional challenges with, I've not been in this situation before, but, sometimes there's a perception of brothers, sisters coming
Oh,
through
yeah.
the company.
Yeah.
Some know the business. Maybe there's an element of, I don't know, just a certain attitude. And then maybe existing employees have been there for years,
Mhm.
making some remarks. So I'm sure you've probably seen or experienced some stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I was really blessed to have some amazing family members in the business with me who really helped me understand that quickly, where they were giving me feedback saying your number one priority is to build the trust of the people who are here before you got
Mm.
here. And until you do that, you're probably not going to get much done, right? Or you're not going to be successful. And so try to take a servant mentality towards them, towards the people who had already been here before, and saying, how can I help you be successful? And if I don't know something, can I ask you? Can you give me some insight into this? And it's definitely a humbling position, but I think people see that. Hopefully they recognize that, and it kind of mitigates the idea that you're entitled or that you're there to get something from them. And I think it's just natural to be more endeared to somebody who's there to help you. So that's definitely was a big piece of advice that I got early on, is you need to earn their respect and do that by serving them. And that's something that I've always tried to continue throughout my entire time here. And I don't think
Yeah,
that
no,
ever stops, honestly.
no, I love that term, that attitude, that servant leadership piece, because I think it's so critical, especially with bigger companies and coming in and asking how you can help them. So
Right.
I love that approach. As you've moved into your current position, what are some of the things that you feel as though you've identified that, how can I take the company in its current position to another level, whether it be revenue, whether it be, geography or something? What were some of the things that maybe you've identified as the world changes around us?
Yeah, something that was really a light bulb moment for me was realizing that standardization and standardizing your processes and creating systems around them is incredibly important. And Mark, our founder, he had always really drilled into that stuff into all of our crew leaders and all of our foremen and the different people. This is how you do it. The service and the quality is super important, but it was never really formally standardized. And it was more of just a culture that everyone knew because you just knew it. If you stuck around long enough, you kind of felt it, right? Realizing that for us to become more of a bigger company and to scale to a kind of enterprise level or professional company, that those things were going to be needed, those checklists and SOPs and standardized processes. And I remember I was reading a book, the famous E-Myth book by Michael Gerber.
Oh, yeah.
It's a great book, right? And somewhere in the book, he was talking about Hamburger University, I think it's called, at McDonald's.
Right. Yeah.
And that was a real ingenuitive thing for them to do, to create this internal university where you go to Hamburger University if you're a franchisee and you learn everything that they do in their standard process and how to run the McDonald's system. Reading that book, and I was just like, why don't we not have something like that? Like, heck, I mean, landscaping is way more complicated than flipping burgers. And so like restaurant people, I know restaurants are hard businesses, but I was like, why is this not more commonplace? And kind of started the journey of like, okay, I know I want to build Hemington University, but I don't know how the heck I'm going to do that. Trying a few things here and there. And, eventually I found a program called On3, which is an amazing piece of technology that allows you to build your own internal university and your own content with nothing more than like an iPhone. And they build out the learnings, the content for you. And it's really a scientific process too, where you're learning the processes, but then you're also having to prove your learning by uploading coaching videos to the application. And so they're using cutting edge learning science to really make sure that somebody who's learning the process can not only intake the information but apply it, and that's really like proof that they know it. And there's a lot more to that. I'm definitely butchering it, but they are really smart people, and they had this technology platform that was available. And so when I found that, I was like, okay, we can do this. This is going to be possible, because it's just thinking about how you're going to put that all together. It just feels so daunting.
And that's, I think, a key point right there is, I do a lot of strategic planning with companies, and they always have training on their strategic plan for next year.
Right.
And I would say probably 8 times out of 10, it's either not done or it's partially done. And I think people realize it's quite a big task. So one of the things I always encourage them to do is say, why don't you just focus on maybe one level of employee, maybe like a foreman level, just train them in Q1, and then Q2, why don't you switch to another level? But what was your approach to just rolling this out? Because, I'm sure there's probably some of the people in your company that are thinking, can't do this. It's such a big, project. And there's probably some resistance there, but maybe I'm wrong.
Oh, sure. I think what helped is before we started Hemington University, we had made training, like one-off trainings or periodic trainings, commonplace. And so there was an expectation that if you wanted to be here, this is a learning culture. This learning and training is part of the deal if you're going to be here. And so over time, people have started to become more receptive to that and appreciative of the value that it brings, especially if you're in some type of leadership with people under you, and you're getting people who are more equipped to lead. The people you're leading are more equipped with skills that are going to help you be more successful. I think that's when the light bulb goes off for some people. So before we had done that, we had invested quite a bit of time into different trainings. So when we said, hey, we're going to start doing Hemington University, I think it was kind of like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. That's a good idea. And so that's been helpful. But really the way that we've applied it is to make it a standard training program for anybody who starts here. So their first year, they're going to go through Hemington University. And it's a pretty long process because you're doing it bite by bite, little chunks here, little chunks there, because we're trying to teach them the entire process of commercial landscape construction from start to finish. And then they're having to prove those skills in the field through the coaching module. So it is a longer process. And so there's an investment into the people that you're bringing on. But my personal feeling is if you invest in people, they're more likely to stay.
And do you tie that into, I suppose, opportunities for advancement or even to wage increases and stuff like that?
Absolutely.
To tie it all together, just a little bit more of an incentive.
Yeah. So we've even updated so we have an annual review process that comes with a skills matrix for every level of our every level of construction crews. So we have 3 different levels of laborers and 3 different levels of construction managers, as we call them, crew leaders, basically. With those different levels, we have updated that skills matrix now, just saying, did this person complete the university, and if so, how did they do on that? And that's going to be part of that consideration for advancement to that next level. And then at some point being a requirement, saying you're not going to the next level until Hemington University has been successfully completed, because this is how much we're committed to
Right.
these skills.
Let's take a minute to thank our sponsors. Urcher is a life brand born from grit, founded by Zach Strausser. The mission is clear: to raise $1 million for the trades by supporting vocational training across North America. Urcher makes tough, smart gear built for landscaping and snow professionals who work hard outside every day in all conditions. Their apparel puts safety first, helps crews look sharp, and honors the pride in their craft. Every purchase has purpose, fueling training programs and building a resilient workforce. Urcher isn't just workwear, it's a culture of respect, resilience, and results. When you contact Urcher, mention Wilson 360 and Zach and his team will take well care of you. I know you're in the process of rolling it out, but have you seen any benefits so far?
Yeah, I really have. Even in the short time we've been implementing it, one kind of added benefit that I didn't initially see is it's really helped me identify a few people that have real leadership potential that were kind of lost in the shuffle, because they're really committed to the learning process. They're even like going further beyond just the time we've allocated at the trainings, and engaging with it more, or sending in these excellent coaching videos that are like just top notch, and you can tell that they're really excited about it. And I think that's been a nice added benefit of seeing a few people like, you weren't necessarily on the radar for leadership development, but now you definitely are, because you've shown your commitment to this, and that's exciting.
I love that. I talk about this quite a bit, especially going into strategic planning, budgeting, time of year, where I always say, who are those hidden rock stars in your company?
Yeah.
There's people that are lost in the shuffle. They maybe got brought in at a certain position and they've just done a great job of that, but nobody's really taken interest in them. So they are potentially all these future leaders there in the company, but they're being ignored, and you're either going to lose them or you're just not realizing their full potential.
Especially, we're at like the 150 person mark roughly, and that's it's an interesting size, because you're not so huge of a company that you just don't even know who's working for you, or you don't see them at all. But then you're also big enough that you might not be able to have that personal connection as much with every person that works for you. So having those tools available to try and identify those hidden rock stars is really nice.
When you identify somebody, do you do any type of, fast tracking, or maybe you're giving them some more modules to work on that really pushes them a little bit more?
Yeah, not necessarily with Hemington University yet, but in the past we have done and are currently doing mentorship programs for people who are in leadership development. And then also we have a peer group that meets once a month. Well, the construction managers, as we call them, basically foreman level type employees. We have a peer group that meets every month, and there's usually a topic about something related to the work, like how to get the most out of your people, or how to deal with a difficult team member. And so what's cool is it's a training, but then it's also a peer group connection, because you're in the room with all the people that are in your same shoes in the company. So you're learning from them, especially when you have the older guys and the younger guys, and they're like, hey, this is how I dealt with this situation before. And the younger guys listening to it and taking it in and saying, oh, okay, that's good. That's interesting. That's really good information. Or maybe the younger guys saying like, hey, I downloaded this app and this is how I keep track of this stuff. And the older guys thinking, oh, that's interesting too. Yeah. So there's always that information sharing that I think is really powerful.
I love that. I mean, that's, I know we talked about it at my old company, coming up with like a mentorship type program, but never seemed to, get any traction. But why don't you feel as though many companies adopt that type of program? You think it's just, they don't think about it, or think they're just too busy, or don't want to sort of commit that time to it?
Well, it can be difficult to measure it. on the bottom line, right? Maybe in a short, especially in the short run, maybe a couple quarters or two. So I think the ROI measurement is a challenge, and then the time, then the resources it takes to do that can be challenging. I think finding ways to do it smart and do it as efficient as possible. Like, for example, our mentorship program, most of it happens over Microsoft Teams. So the guys never have to leave the job site to make their mentorship meeting. And that's just kind of doing stuff a little smarter, I guess, is helpful. And maybe there's an element of like, it's too touchy-feely, too squishy. I don't know. But as I started to dive into some of that stuff and some of the initial results we even had when we started doing the mentorship program, it was like, wow, this is amazing. I honestly, I underestimated how effective it would be and how valuable it would be to some people. And I think I just assumed that people would kind of figure different things out, but sometimes people get stuck and they need that extra attention, and it goes a long way, and then over time, when you see those things, it's like the ROI is like off the charts, really, right? Because like, what's the value of bringing somebody up to leadership and them being with you for like 10 or 15 years? Yeah.
And as you say, I think a lot of these things are not necessarily measurable. You don't necessarily see that ROI in them.
Yeah.
So I think, I suppose you can see things like, employee turnover would be a good measure. But, I think some of the stuff you're doing between the university and the mentorship program is first class. I mean, I don't see many companies do that.
Yeah, it's always a work in progress, right? You're always trying to figure out how to do a little better and take what you learned doing the first run and do a little bit better the second run. And over time, hopefully you have a decently polished program that has some real results and track record behind it. And then once you get to that point, it's a pretty easy sell, to continuing to invest in it. And I think that's really the vision with Hemington University, is it just becomes a machine. You're putting people through it, they're getting better, and then they're going into the leadership track, and you put 50 people through it and you end up with 5 leaders 2 years later. I'm just making stuff up, but this kind of becomes a numbers game, right? In terms of just leadership development, is in finding that next generation of leaders for your company.
What does it look like in, maybe in the end of 2026? I mean, if you were to look back and look at your university and your mentorship program, what would be success in your mind?
Yeah, the success would be the entire cohort, as I would call it, or class of people who went through it the first time. They're still with us and they're thriving and they're achieving their goals here. And they're super happy to be at Hemington. They feel like they got some skills that help them advance their career. That would be success to me. If as a result of this, people are achieving their dreams, whether that's be here or at home. That would be a major success for me.
If anybody wants to get hold of you and just talk through the university, the mentorship program, or just your company as a whole, what would be the best way for them to reach out to you?
Yeah, just shoot me an email, Marcus, Marcus, at Hemington.com. That's Hemington with 1 M. Or you can just go to Hemington.com and check out our website, and you can drop me a line at the info@Hemington.com email as well.
Okay, awesome. Marcus, been an absolute pleasure talking to you today. Thank you for sharing information about your company, your university, your mentorship programs. I think that's super useful for everybody. So thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you, Robert.
Okay, thank you. Take care.
Bye.
That's a wrap for today's episode of the Commercial Landscaper Podcast. I hope you're walking away with some great nuggets that you can immediately apply to your business, whether you're in leadership, operations, or you just want to show up every day with that Ironman mindset. Remember, growth doesn't happen by accident. It happens with intentional moves, bold conversations, and surround yourself with the right people. If you found value today, subscribe, leave a review, or share this episode with others. And again, don't forget to check out Wilson-360.com. We have digital courses from account management, operational excellence, leadership development, or some of the other coaching packages we offer. Anyway, huge shout out to our sponsors. Thank you very much. And I'll leave with this. Have a pure, dead, brilliant day.